Turn a light on in here. Ugh.
It's nighttime and the end of another 12-hour shift for TJ Corella. Cozy quarters is how he likes to call it.
You've all probably heard about how expensive it is to live in California. Well, there's this nurse who works at Stanford Hospital. He works on call. He's an ER nurse, and his name is TJ Corella. Apparently, Stanford has this rule that if you work for them, you have to live within 30 minutes of the hospital. And he can't afford to live anywhere close to the hospital. So instead of renting or buying, what he was forced to do is turn his van into a bedroom. And because he lives near Palo Alto, first of all, if you know anything about the area, Palo Alto, Stanford area, it costs over $3 million to purchase a home in that area.
The cities surrounding the hospital are some of the most expensive in the country. Average home prices are more than $3 million, way out of TJ's and plenty of other nurses' pay scales.
But the rent prices are more reasonable. Like you can get an apartment, let's say a one bedroom, for something like $3,000 a month, which is a lot. It's insane. But when you consider how much you can make as a nurse at Stanford, which is one of the highest paying hospitals, if not the highest paying hospital in the entire country, then $3,000 still leaves you with plenty of money left over at the end of the month. So one thing that I think is happening here is that, one, this nurse is probably not doing too good of a job in managing their money. That's one thing. I do know plenty of travel nurses. I know nurses in hospitals who live in vans, and many of these nurses are in a lot of debt. But this nurse retrofitted his van so he can have a cot, a mini fridge, an air mattress, and a composting toilet in the van so that he can save some money on rent or on a mortgage. It's unaffordable. Buying a house in the Stanford area is impossible for a nurse to do on a nurse's salary. Even though these nurses are making well over $170,000 a year, in some cases, some of these nurses are making about $300,000 to $400,000 a year. It was impossible for this particular nurse, who is on call and is probably not getting as many shifts as they need in order to be able to afford a home or to afford the average rent in the area. This nurse has no choice but to live in a van in order to be able to get to work on time in less than 30 minutes, which is the rule that has been set by the organization. And in addition to this, the nurses union is trying to push for guaranteed accommodations during the contract negotiations that they have every 3 to 4 years. Because it's not just this one nurse that's having this issue. It's every single nurse that works at Stanford.
I personally know probably at least 15 people that sleep in their vehicles. In order for us to keep doing what we need to do, then there are some things that need to change.
Unless you have another partner who's also making Stanford wages or more, there is no way you're gonna be able to buy a house or afford to live in that area. You have all these tech companies in the area that are paying their employees well over $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. So it's easy for these employees to be able to afford a home in the area, but it's not easy for a nurse who's making $150,000, $200,000. Yeah, maybe $300,000 or $400,000 if they stretch their overtime hours. And a lot of the time what's happening is many nurses who work here are getting burned out because in order to afford to live there, they have to work insane number of hours. I know a nurse who moved from New York City, started working at Stanford, and he thought he was going to be able to do well in this area because he knew that the salary was going to be high. But when he started seeing his paychecks and he compared it to how much he was going to have left over after he paid for his rent, he was paying $7,500 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. By the time he paid his rent, and mind you, I mean, he could have gone for something cheaper. That's what I was telling him from the get-go. He could have chosen to live in an apartment that was a lot less expensive than what he settled for. But what ultimately ended up happening was that he ended up moving back to the New York City area because he knew that if he would have moved back there, at least the cost of living relative to the Stanford area was going to be a lot less. And he would have been able to afford a house outside of the New York City area and just drive into New York City. And another thing that this nurse mentioned is that he has at least 15 coworkers, 15 nurses that are also doing the same thing that he's doing. You will see rows of vans parked in the hospital parking lot. And the unfortunate part is that these nurses who are trying to save some money by living in their vans are getting ticket warnings over and over and over again. So they created a chat group to notify one another when one of them was going to get a ticket. The hospital does offer sleep accommodation and hotel rooms under some conditions, but availability is so unreliable because this area is so highly populated and so expensive that in many cases the hospital doesn't even provide housing for the employees. So when nurses come to work, because they get very little sleep, running on a lot of overtime, they often wake up groggy, they're still on site, and sometimes get ticketed for overnight parking. This is why I keep telling nurses that if you're going to move from one state to another, or if you're living in an area where the cost of living is so high that you can't even afford to live there, you need to consider your options. Nurses can move anywhere in the United States, and you can find a job if you apply yourself to it. That's why Monica and I ended up moving from New York City. We couldn't afford to live there. We were living paycheck to paycheck. Every single week, it felt like we were drowning, and we were terrible with money. Thankfully, we're not in that position anymore. We ended up moving to Sacramento, California. We were in New York City making about $50 an hour, working over 40, 50, 60 hours a day in some cases, to now living in Sacramento, where I'm making $110 an hour. Monica's making $142 an hour. We're both staff nurses. She's per diem, I'm an ER nurse. And at the end of the day, we're only working about 20 to 21 hours per week on average. We don't have to work more than that because we paid off all our debt. Here in the Sacramento area, the cost of living is a lot less. And you need to consider other cities in California where the pay is high, but the cost of living is lower relative to the area that you're working in. For example, Oakland, California is one of the best areas. I know, so there's a lot of homeless there, but you can pick an area within that city, like the northern Oakland area, where it's a little bit safer, but the cost of living is also relatively low if you compare it to places like Stanford, Palo Alto, San Francisco. You can buy a house in the Oakland area for an average price of about $765,000. And then you have Sacramento, you have Roseville, you have Folsom, California. You also have places like Vallejo, California. Yeah, Vallejo, California is a little bit sketchy in some areas, but you can find decent places within Vallejo. And the median home price in that area is about $565,000. And if you want to get the exact numbers to these areas, just download our app. It's called MapMyPay. And in that app, what I've done is looked at over 1,000 cities, pulled all of the salary data for all of these cities, and calculated the net income specific to the cities and the locations that you're collecting these paychecks in. And then it shows you the cost of living in the area, home prices, rent prices, mortgage payments, demographics, what requirements you're going to need if you apply for a license in these states. And it also shows you the schools in the area if you have kids, the crime data. And if you're someone who, let's say, lives in a very cold city and you want to move to a warmer city, we have the monthly temperatures in the app. And we also have a community. We're really working on improving this app, and trust me, there's so much more work that we want to do. We are going to be including jobs in the app. So if you want something that's going to improve your finances, it's going to show you where you should move to within the United States as a nurse, and many other nursing specialties like CRNAs, NPs, LPNs, it's all in the app. So if you want the app, go ahead, click on the link in the description and download that app. But what do you think about this story? If you're a nurse who's in this situation, what would you do? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm in the parking lot right now. I'm heading to work, but it seems like this is the best time for me to make videos because I'm on my way to work. I can just make a quick 10 to 15 minute video and post it within a week. So if you like these type of videos, please let me know in the comment section. And if you want more videos like this, again, just let me know in the comment section below. Also, watch this video here. You might be interested in it. And like this video, subscribe to the channel. See you next time.